This is a video on tipped employees. I have to be honest, I don't really like the problems that the textbook has, which is why I didn't do a video initially with the other problems. So I just made one up just to maybe hopefully make it clear as you're working on the homework and your other problems in the homework facility. Okay, so we have a scenario. Lisa works at Ebenezer's Cafe and is paid the $2.13 per hour, which is the rate required for people who are considered tipped employees. And she works 35 hours this week and she receives $150 in tips. So what's the weekly minimum that's required to be paid? It's minimum wage times times the 35 hours. Whoops, if I can type that in. So if we take the minimum wage times the $35, that is $253. Now, what is she actually getting paid? She's getting paid $213 by her employer. So that's that's $74.55. I'm gonna make this negative. So that's getting paid by the employer. She did have tips paid by her customers of $150. So then let's see if the employer owes her anything extra. And they do. So because the minimum wage requires that she's paid $253.75, she got $74.55 from her employer at the $2.13 per hour. She had tips of $150 from her customers. Then the employer has to pay her another $29.20 to bring her gross pay up to the minimum wage. Okay, then now let's say she's more successful. So now she works 45 hours and she gets $250 in tips. So that's going to put her at more than the minimum wage amount. So they don't have to worry about paying her anything extra. But how do they determine how much to pay her for her overtime? So that's what's kind of in question. So she has 5 hours of overtime, and they are allowed to use that $5 credit, or sorry, $5.12 credit. So if we think about minimum wage is $7.25, if they're paying $2.13 an hour, the difference is the $5.12. So then that $5.12 is the tip credit. So they're still allowed to take that tip credit off, again, as long as they're making more than the minimum wage. So then the the 5 hours of overtime hours, the rate is going to be $7.25 times 1.5 times. That's our overtime rate. And then we would round it up though, so $10.88. And then we would subtract the tip credit. So then they'd have to pay her $5.76 in overtime amount. So then that, I'll put back up here. So then if I take the hours times the $5.76, that's how much overtime pay they would, whoops, sorry about that. That's how much they would owe her in overtime pay. So then her true pay for that week, if we wanted to kind of map that out, her regular pay is going to be the 40 hours at the $2.13 that the employer pays her. What we just calculated as the overtime pay. And then her tips, which were $250. So then that would be her total gross pay. Oops. So you just want to understand that anytime there's tipped employees, and then what the textbook says is a regular, to be considered an actual tipped employee, it has to be more than $30 a month. But employees who receive more than $20 in tips still need to report that to their employer. So though they would not be considered regular tipped employees, but they still have to report it. But these would be regular tipped employees who are getting tipped more than $30. And they are allowed to be paid that $2.13, assuming that their tips make up the difference to get them up to minimum wage. And then again, the minimum wage is the $7.25 an hour. So again, depends on how many hours they work a week, what that would amount out to be. And then if they get into overtime, as long as they're over the minimum wage limit, then they're allowed to take the tip credit. So we calculate what the minimum wage overtime rate is, and then subtract that tip credit to come up with the overtime rate of pay. So hopefully that makes a little sense. There was no real problems in the back of the book that kind of had us work that out. So hopefully, again, you can just kind of follow through this video.